every woman is single. When you talk about certain red pill concepts, such as she's not yours, it's just your turn, a lot of people misunderstand it and they think that you're talking negative about women or negative about the dating scene or whatever the case may be. But just to help people understand the concept of every woman is single, let's take it back to certain extremes just to illustrate the point. So the concept of slavery, and I don't mean American slavery, white on black. I'm talking about every group of people being guilty of it, every race of people being guilty of it. This is something in human history that every group, so to speak, is guilty of. So something like us evolving to a point like, hey, we should not own another human being. We should be more conscious and more loving and more understanding and respectful of life, all life, not just humans, but plant life, animal life. We should be more respecting of nature in general. So the concept of you don't actually own another human being, most people in 2021 would agree with that we should not own another human being. So going off the whole slavery concept, I know that's an extreme, but the extreme illustrates a point. You do not own another human being. So when we talk about certain concepts like the marriage contract, you don't really own the... How's it going? Good. You don't own another human being. So if you do sign that marriage contract and, you know, it falls apart for whatever reason, just know that you never owned the person in the first place. Just because you signed on the dotted line, just because you signed a piece of paper, you do not have rights to owning that person for the rest of your life. You don't own their money, you don't own their mindset, you don't own their decisions, you don't own their choices, you don't own anything about them. So when it comes to every woman being single, regardless of whether she says she has a boyfriend, she has a husband, whether she says she's single or married or it's complicated, however people define it, every woman is single. And with any video like this, someone will comment and say, well, every guy is too. Of course, but as a guy myself talking in my channel, I'm going to refer to it as every woman is single, because it wouldn't make sense for me to say every guy is single. That's not my lane. If that's your lane, then that's how you can present that. But I'm just speaking from the perspective of this being my channel. So yes, you could say too, every guy is single. No woman owns another guy. But me being a guy that likes girls, every woman is single. That's why it makes sense to title it that way. Because any red pill content, you see that a lot where she's not yours, it's just your turn. Someone will comment, whether it's a guy or another woman, and she'll say, well, it could be the other way around. The guy isn't mine. He's never faithful. He has multiple options of women. Yes, but as a guy myself, I'm talking in perspective of what would be relevant to me. It's not relevant to me what guys are doing, because in my dating scene and how I want to go about my life, it's relevant what women are doing. So that's how I title it that way. So the point of that being, every woman being single, it doesn't matter what she says in terms of whether it's a legal contract or just a verbal thing like, oh, this is my boyfriend, this is my husband, whatever, because at the end of the day, we're all living creatures, we're all life forms. So aside from the extra stuff that we place in life, there's some very vital stuff that we need to address, which is food, water, shelter, genetics, happiness, if you will. Certain things that kind of go beyond the superficial, the money, the phones, the technology, the social media, the likes, all of that. So when it comes down to it, you don't actually own another human being. So when it comes to your dating life or your love life, you got to be really careful about what you're saying is your girlfriend or your wife or whatever the case may be, because you could be wasting a lot of time on what you think is the truth of your circumstance. You could be wasting a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your resources as a man, instead of working yourself up the ladder. Because going back to that philosophy when I'm discussing slavery about how you don't own another human being, you don't own another woman as a guy. A woman can choose to be with you, she can choose to not be with you in whatever context for whatever reason. So take a guy like myself. I just turned 27 a couple weeks ago. Guys in their 20s, we're at the bottom of the barrel of the economy. Coming out of high school, coming out of college, we're in our 20s. There's guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on that have had several decades more to work up, to build things, to manifest whatever they want to manifest, to make money. So guys in their 20s are starting at the bottom of the totem pole, the bottom of the ladder, the bottom of the economy. So knowing that men and women view each other a certain way, and that the guys are going to be seen more as the leader and the alpha and the provider and the testosterone. And yes, every relationship or whatever, guy and girl, it's going to be different, it's going to be subjective, but like I've mentioned plenty of times before, you know, you'll always have that feminist woman that says, oh, well, women can make more money than men, and women can do anything a man can do, but it doesn't work that way. When she's making more money, as much as she wants to play the feminist thing, she's not going to be attracted to the guy going to women's marches. She's not going to be attracted to the guy that she has to take care of, that she has to make the money to provide for him. In general, it's going to be more functional when he's the leader, when he's the alpha, when he's the one providing, because with testosterone and estrogen, that's just how it's going to play out naturally, just to be more functional. So because of that, when it comes to children and the next generation, which is the reason we're all here, is procreation, it's going to be the woman having the fertility, bearing the kid, and the guy being the provider, holding it down, being the alpha, whatever you want to describe that as. So because we have a monetary system where you have to work your way up and you have to deal with other people, you have to convince this other person to give you money so that you can go up, but how does you going up make them go down and all of that? Guys in their 20s are starting at the bottom. So you're always going to be subjected to these evaluations on how much money you're making, how good looking you are, what you provide, your height, your genetics, your bone structure, your spiritual connection with a certain woman, emotional intelligence, mental capabilities, just camaraderie, chemistry, all of that. So you're always at this subjective perception based on anybody that you could meet. So a lot of guys, especially in their 20s, when they're just like, oh, why didn't she call me back? Why didn't she like me back? Why didn't she do this or whatever? Because you don't own her in the first place. You never will. And there's so many other options other than you. As a guy myself at 27, who's to say there's not another guy 10 years older than me? He's 37. He's had 10 years longer in the game, so he owns more. He might own a company right now where he has employees that work under him, giving him the free time to do whatever he wants. So say a woman wants kids, there's a natural biological clock with that. So me at 27, I might meet a woman that's 27, and you would think us being the same age, that would make the most sense, but I'm not in a position to provide for a kid or like take a relationship seriously. I can barely take care of myself. So who's to say that the guy that's 10 years older than me, who's to say that he doesn't provide more to a woman's specific perspective at that time? If he wants kids and she's in her late 20s, early 30s, she's going to start thinking about it. She's going to be really conscious of what her timeline is to actually have that kid. So she's not going to wait around for you to be successful. She's not going to wait around for you to get your stuff together. So it's going to be very temporal based off what it is in the current moment. So as a guy, when you're not aware of this stuff, when you're not red-pilled to the game, you're just going to always be frustrated because you're not going to understand it. You're not going to get that you don't own her. You're not going to get that she's not really yours. See, once you get red-pilled to the game, once you understand these concepts, you're not going to take it personally because you're going to know exactly what it is. You're going to see the bigger picture of that. So as a guy, what you need to do is you need to take it day by day, and you need to work on yourself, and you need to grow to whatever you want to be. Because at the end of the day, guy or girl, nobody's going to do anything for you. At the end of the day, you're really looking out for yourself. Nobody's really gonna like cheer you on to be more successful than them or whatever the case may be. So you got to take that pride in yourself. So knowing that money matters or attraction matters or looks and all that, you're never the only option. So it's not to say to give up on the game completely or to give up on women. It's not to say that, but it's really understanding your place at a certain time. So like a guy at 30 years old in his mom's basement playing video games, and he's frustrated, he thinks women are gold diggers or whores or whatever the case may be, if you're 30 years old and you're in your mom's basement playing video games, you're not providing anything. You're not providing her a place to live. You're not providing an adequate lifestyle to raise children. There's just other options. The guy that's 30 that has a business where he has people under him, he can just provide more than you in your mom's basement at 30. And even if you have the business, even if you can create the criteria of what you think is like the ultimate alpha male, like whether it's the looks and the money and the status and the car and the house, you could go down and create a list, a height, genetics of what you think is the ultimate alpha male, and there's still someone else that has something you don't have. There's still someone else, another guy out there, where you created in your mind the ultimate image of alpha male. You say, oh, 6'4", this, that, money, looks, whatever. Well, there's also the guy that's 6'5". Or you think, oh, 6 foot, 6 foot flat, perfect height. There's the guy that's 6'1". Or you could be 6'2", and the guy that's 5'11", she just connects with him better based on a spiritual point or a mental point, or just how both of you grew up and just what you were laid on. You're never the only option. You're never the only person. So when you're getting super serious into this and you're getting really attached, you just have to know that she's never yours, it's just your turn. It's all temporary. You don't own anybody. So when you get too involved in this to where you're not working on yourself, it can really derail what you could have done with your future. You've got to really break it down to the basics first. So as a human being that's a living creature, eyes, nose, mouth, ears, sensory perception like other animals. Yes, human beings, we are animals, regardless of whether people want to admit that or not. We are life forms. If you go to Africa, walk into a herd of lions, walk into a herd of hippos, and see how superior humans actually are. We are a part of nature. So understand the importance of survival and things that really matter. So like your genetics, your food, your water, your shelter, what you actually provide, what you know about the world, your sophistication, how nuanced you are, a woman's specific perception of you based on how she was raised. A woman raised as a Christian versus a Muslim versus a Jew versus rich versus poor, black, white, that affects her psychology of what she's even going to think you as. So when you think, oh, like I found the one, or oh, this is going to work, or I've signed this contract, therefore I own her, it's just not the case. There's always the other option. There's always the guy that you aren't in some capacity. So just tread lightly with what it is you're doing, with how you're labeling things, whether you sign contracts or however you choose to live your life. But just know that every woman is single at all times, from birth to old age. She could be married 40 years and she's still single. That's just kind of how it works, because there's always going to be something within that marriage or that relationship that by someone's perception, they're not getting their needs met or they're not providing, which another guy provides. And so it's not to say give up on the game. It's not to say give up on women. You shouldn't. You should use the information of Red Pill and the Manosphere to improve yourself. You should, instead of getting mad about it, instead of getting mad at women, or instead of thinking that they owe you something, use the information to your advantage to make yourself a better man, so that you have more options, so that you have more clarity going forward, so that you don't have a bunch of quantum entanglements that just make a lot more stress in your life than you need. So understand that you don't own another human being in general. So when it comes to women, you definitely don't own them. So never think that she's yours. She's not yours. She's always single. And you need to understand that as you as a man coming up in the world. Focus on yourself, focus on what you need to do, and the more your stock rises, ironically, you're gonna have a better chance with women anyways.